everybody, Dr. Friedman here, and I continue to gather my parties, a plural that means more than ever these days. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of different game sessions. Most importantly, the game tasters have done their first two shots, and that's because we tasted Fall of Magic and wanted to keep going all the way to the end of the scroll. Some of you will be very familiar with the format of Fall of Magic if you're a sicko who has looked into Heart of the Deernicorn games before, or if you've seen the recent Quinn's Quest love note to boxed games, you might be familiar with both Fall of Magic and City of Winter, which is the one that Quinn's recommends. But I want to put in an endorsement for Fall of Magic as the good introduction to whether this format of game is going to appeal to you and the people that you're playing with. Because it is the simpler version. There's a single scroll. We were able to play it over 2 nights because we were tired. We took our time. You could definitely get this done in a one shot if you had a little bit more time than we did. 2 to 4 hours is usually what's described. And I would say if you're really taking your time and not charging through, then yeah, you're talking about a 4 hour-ish commitment. But start could not be simpler. These are your character options. Pick a name, pick a place, pick a title. What do any of these things mean? You decide. Someone will always pick the crab singer, and what the crab singer becomes a fascinating personality test. In the same way that James D'Amato really talked about the kind of fruitful friction of the well-timed question, the phrases in Fall of Magic are really handy. And so the gameplay is each character has a coin. And you're moving yourself and the magus, who is dying alongside magic in the world, from place to place on a journey that does have branching options. In our particular playthrough, the heir of Stormguard revealed that their entire family had been killed by incursion forces. So we did not go south, y'all. We went to the north, to the woods and the wild altars and things like that. But at each location that you see on this map, there are little kind of subsidiary locations with little prompts, and you use those phrases as ways of setting a scene. The rest of the players can then fill in with interesting questions. And what's really lovely, as I talked about in my classroom game, is that you can go really expansive or really tight. This game can expand or compress to fit the time you're giving it, your levels of fatigue, your sense of creativity. My one guide for especially the early parts of this game if you're planning to play this all the way to the end, don't stint on these kinds of early traits where you're handing each other kind of the equivalent of yearbook superlatives that enrich your character, because you have to have something to lose at the end. This was a really wonderful bridge for this group that's still kind of getting their toes wet in role playing. As I've talked about with our Alice is Missing game, we're still kind of figuring out like how to go deep and how to, role play in character. The emergent stories that came out, the narrative arcs, the weird and amazing parallels that we didn't know we were constructing were, at one point I said, this is exactly the kind of thing that an audience member in an actual play would say is totally scripted, but was totally emergent, which is really lovely. So I've said this before, other people have said similar kinds of things about Fall of Magic. It's a really lovely tool. City of Winter builds on this to create a set of additional mechanics. You are playing a family that's moving together, passing on traditions or in danger of losing them, in a really beautiful metaphor for forced migration because of displacement, something more relevant than ever. But this is a really lovely way to get people comfortable, and we are very excited to play City of Winter. Now, this game group is larger than the recommended collection. So I want to talk about some of the adaptations that we were able to do to make to accommodate a couple of different phenomenon. One is we had a new player come on night 2 and one player not able to return because they had other commitments. So, in the case of the absent player, for the most part, they were unconscious and we carried them on the journey. But in some interesting late stage points where there are some interesting questions, we actually texted them and included them in those and rolled the dice to see what the answer was. And so, literally, from a separate event, our absent player was able to play. The other thing that really potentially constrains both of these games is the fact that you are supposed to play with no more than 5 players. There are, in fact, a coin for the Magus, and then different really cool coins for each of the players. The starting base set is 4. There's a cool fox coin that I'm still obsessively hunting for that ups the player count to 5. We had 5 players last time, and hot swapped out. So, which ultimately meant that we were tracking 6 characters. And this is where the fact that I am an annoying person who basically backs a lot of Kickstarters that have coins comes in really handy, because I had different kinds of coins. You could use meeples, you could use any other kinds of things, just as long as they're visually distinct easily to expand the player count. Now, is this recommended? Probably not. It's going to extend gameplay. You are definitely going to want to take more time. You're going to have a lot more overlap. So the game forces you into having multiple people go to the same sub area in some places on the map. But by and large, most of the time, there's enough room for everybody to have their own scene in a separate little mini location. So you lose that if everybody is taking a turn in a region. My suggestion would be to distribute, if you're playing with something like 6 or 7 players, which I can hear certain people screaming in pain, but bear with me. If you really want to play this game and you have 7 sickos, you can do this. Get extra markers to move people around, do a little bit of kind of overlap in terms of the initial names and roles. And then for each location, fill up the locations, have one player choose to move the Magus and narrate that scene with their character, and then rotate that responsibility so that you've got that extra scene in your back pocket. Again, not a perfect solution. This game does reward having a tight group, but I didn't actually feel that much friction. Slowdown, yes, but not the kind of slowdown you have, say, with my D&D group of 9 people, where combat takes a really long time and you're kind of twiddling your thumbs, because everybody is involved in everyone's like little miniature scene, because you have the ability to ask questions, you have the ability to we were entering each other's little scenes where it was appropriate. And so that's a really beautiful part of this game. And so I do think that this game is expandable to a certain point. I would not play with more than about 7, and that would be stretching it to kind of capacity at that point. But again, and it's a beautiful game. It's a game that really does, I can imagine replaying this. And in the same way that we think about replayability in terms of, can you play this with the same people? That's an interesting question, and I'm not so sure. This might fall into a similar kind of Alice is Missing sort of trap, where I want to replay this as a way to get to know people, but in different kinds of configurations. And the box is just really lovely. The setup, the rituals, the ways in which the rules are very clear start, And what I particularly love is that it builds in additional little mechanics along the way. Later on, you get perils, and at the very end, you get changes to your character. So we found it, story games are often critiqued for being so rules light that all you're doing is improv. And that's really not the case here. The evocative phrases, the sketchy, not entirely specific art, all of it contributes to making a kind of rich control that has some bounded kind of territory for you to play within. We knew that we were likely going to play City of Winter, which has an equally kind of evocative and interesting opening, and we're tying the two together in interesting kinds of ways. There are parts of this map we did not explore, which is really cool. And so we might explore them together someday, or we might explore them with different groups in different kinds of ways. And this is where, if you've been listening this long, thank you. I appreciate you so much. I treasure every single person, especially in this particular moment, who's sharing. But one of the things that I'm announcing to my game groups is that I'm not going to be in Auburn for much of next year. There's an announcement that's going to come up on Monday for folks on Patreon to find out exactly the details of what's happening. But it means that we're in this interesting transition because of summer travel and all of those sorts of things. And we're entering conference season right now. Our group isn't doesn't have many sessions before our time together gets is going to transform in some kind of way. Whether that means me kind of zooming in a virtual way, my friends have access to the house and the games to continue to play and experiment. Whether that means that when I return periodically during my time away, that's when we'll meet to kind of do something even more elaborate and intentional, or whether we're just going to have other game groups, which we all do have at this point, and we'll kind of, come back in other kinds of ways enriched by those experiences. I don't yet know. But what I do know is that I'm really grateful for these experiences, and I'm excited for the games that we're going to be playing. So we've got a 2 week window where not all of our players are going to be together, so we can't start City of Winter. So we're going to be dipping into Xenia's Wonder Tales, which just arrived. Um, uh, I almost said thanks, Jason Morningstar. It's thanks for designing it. I bought it. Kickstarters or deliveries are coming in fast and furious from back when I basically spent all of my Polygon money on buying games. So that's a nice one shot, as I understand it. Roan Rook and Deckard's Royal Blood has also arrived. So in the next little while, we are still going to be going back to one shots because we can only count on who's going to be there for that week during this particular part of an academic season. But I'm still hopeful that we have enough time to maybe try something a little bit longer before we all disperse for the summer and beyond. So that is Fall of Magic. I'm really, really pleased to finally have properly checked this off of my list and not just fake played it or tasted it. It was a really lovely experience, and I'm looking forward to when our group plays City of Winter, as we all are. We took a sneak peek at what is in the box, which is always a cool thing. So more to come, but this is an update. A reminder that I'm in Supermax book jail, and so these updates are going to continue to be a little bit kind of measured, but there's a whole lot more coming after I get sprung. So talk to you soon.